Hey YouTubers, I'm Sai and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I wanted to talk about a video that seems to have been going around a little bit in the people that I follow. So first of all I saw Graham Stephan do a review on this, and then I saw Jennifer from Mama Furfur also do one. Both of their videos can be found in the description down below or up there. Now the video that they both talk about was from CNBC's Make It channel, and it was part of their Millennial Money series. Now this particular episode aired last week, where they interviewed Imani Change, who's a millennial who moved over from America to live in London, and she's earning a lot of money, $227,000 to be exact, which equates to £176,814.84 a year at the time at which I converted this. Now in the video they stated that Imani works as a senior operations manager for a tech company, and to top it all off, Imani is 28 years old. So 3 years younger than me. Now I love to give well wishes to everyone who is doing well in life, but sometimes, just sometimes, when things fall into your path like this, you can't help but feel a little bit jealous with someone younger than you who's earning so much more. Now I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for what I have right now, but I'll be even more grateful if I had lots more subscribers. And there's only one way this will happen. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe down below. And while the intro video plays, smash that like button until it turns blue. So first things first, I had to check on Glassdoor the average senior operations manager salary in London. And Glassdoor seems to think that the average base salary is £66,431. And the highest salary it could see was in a large tech firm, Amazon, where it ranged between 81k to 120k. But even then, the average was still 87.3k. So this means that Imani would have had to be on the upper end of that salary range, and I can only imagine that she must be amazing at her job in order to be able to get to that pay bracket by the age of 28. Imani lived in Baltimore and had always wanted to work abroad. Now naturally, when an opportunity came along to get a promotion, a generous increase in salary, and the opportunity to move to London, for her, this was an absolute dream come true. Now, one thing to note was that her salary of 227k comes both as a base salary and a restricted stock unit. So there is that variable amount to it. But I think it's safe to say that if she's working for a large tech company and is getting paid that much, she's probably working for Amazon. And as Amazon has been one of the lucky few companies to actually thrive during this pandemic, there's no doubt that Imani has hit that 227k salary that has been publicized. One of the things that Imani talked about in the video is that her herself never really saw people who look like her get to the position that she is in. So she worked really hard trying to figure out how she can get there and how she had to grow within the role and as a leader. But on top of that, she also said she wants to help other people also move into these spaces, especially those that don't usually see a lot of people who look like them achieve these high positions. Now one of the hardest things for her, and I think has been the hardest thing for anyone who's living in a different country during this pandemic, is being away from your family and not being able to travel to see them. But luckily, with this digital technology age we live in, there are many options around to stay connected and see and talk to people all over the world. Now with Imani, she unfortunately moved to London about 6 months before this busy city was locked down due to the pandemic. Now one of the things that she found difficult was actually securing an apartment. Now in the video she mentions that she offered to pay 16 months rent up front. 16 months! That's $44,000, which equates to £34,000. Now I know there's a lot of people who would think that that's insane, but it's not really that uncommon for people like expats who move to other countries to work and also having financial support from their company as part of the deal for them moving to that country. Now, something I've learned from some of my friends who have moved to UK to work is that UK introduces a few vicious circles which is where it's quite difficult to get a bank account set up without having an existing address in UK. And then it's also difficult to get a rental property without having a bank account. And so a lot of expats do offer to pay rent up front to kind of bypass the whole checking system. And the main reason why they're able to do this is because the companies that they work for offer a relocation package to help them with the move. And so if they're not planning to stay in that country for a long term, instead of buying a property, they can use that money in order to put a down payment for upfront rent costs. Now, one of the key things that Imani mentions in the video is that she says it's vital to keep in mind the expenses involved when negotiating a salary, especially when you're moving abroad. Now, there are always different things that can cause a problem when moving abroad to work. And it's always a good idea to seek advice from someone else who has actually done it before, because there's so many things that you may not think of that can definitely come about. Now, one thing that Imani realized was how much more expensive living in London was compared to Baltimore. Now, even with the additional savings on a day-to-day basis due to COVID, now personally I live out in Zone 5 of the London Underground, and it used to cost me at least £237 a month just for my travel. And then now living in the outer areas of London during the pandemic and having to work from home, I've had no need to use public transport as I can drive to wherever I want to go, unless I need to go into London for whatever reason very occasionally. Whereas someone who lives in the heart of London usually would not even own a car. Therefore, in order to get around London, a monthly travel card would still cost £138.70 just for Zone 1. Now, also in the video, they showed Imani's typical monthly budget. So let's have a look at that now. We can see that she's investing about 50% of her salary, which is great and something we should all strive to really do, as this is one of the best ways to become truly financially free. Because if we're able to save and invest more than what we're able to spend, it just makes sense that you're going to end up being in a net positive. Now, obviously, it's much easier said than done when we all have necessary expenses, and not all of us are on that same kind of salary as Imani. Then the next bulk of her pay is her taxes, which she has to pay both here in the UK and in the US. But she also gets a tax credit to avoid being double taxed on income, which seems to help her out a lot, as in England, her tax should be more towards $8,000, which means according to the values shown on the screen, she's saving around $5,000 a month. Now, the next largest cost is her housing, which comes to £2,268 for a one-bedroom apartment and council tax, which for central London is actually a reasonable price for a one-bedroom flat with council tax. But she could have probably found a flat a little further outside of London, but I guess then the travel costs end up going up. So it's something that she probably took into consideration when weighing out how far out to live. Now, I don't want to go through each part of her spending habits, but it is definitely worth looking more into her money lessons. Now, Imani, who grew up in a family with two older sisters and her parents, where her dad is a banker and helped her to teach her about money management. So at an early age, her dad always taught her to save half of her allowance for college. Now, her mother also taught her time management by making her a timesheet of her chores, which, when she completed, she was able to get her allowance. Therefore, from an early age, she was taught the value of money through hard work. Imani also went on to talk about how her dad emphasized the importance of avoiding lifestyle creep, which basically means not to spend more money as your salary increases. Now, her dad also encouraged her to save at least 9 months worth of living expenses to keep as an emergency fund and to avoid dipping into her investments. Now, one of the other things that's especially for Americans is student debt. Now, it's not structured in the same way as it is here in UK, where over in the US, student debt becomes a big burden for most Americans. However, Imani was fortunate enough to graduate debt-free. Now, this was all thanks to her saving methods and scholarships. Now, obviously, saving is a great way to set yourself up for the future, but it's not really that much fun. Even though Imani was a careful spender, she allowed herself to splurge onto one designer item a year, such as a designer handbag, costing between $3,000 to $4,000. But since the pandemic, she also admitted that her indulgence has now switched more towards spending money on games on her phone. She also felt as though moving abroad has changed how she spends money on traveling, where back in Baltimore she tried to visit at least 2 new countries a year and aimed to go on domestic trips at least once a month. But since moving to London, most of her traveling budget is spent on going back home to see her family. Now, all in all, Imani has some pretty sound foundations, which has helped to get her to where she is today. Now, I also feel as though luck plays a huge part in helping anyone who manages to get a significant pay jump, and sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time. But lucky for Imani, everything came to her at exactly the right time, with a great opportunity to be promoted and move abroad to work. But just like anyone else who's a go-getter, Imani still has further future goals. Her long-term plan is to one day live in New York with a dog. She also hopes to make a lot more money and help others like herself achieve similar goals. She also said that she would like to become a millionaire by 30 and then become a homeowner by 33. Now, I know some of you will be thinking that being a millionaire by 30 sounds a little far-fetched, but if she has been saving 50% of her salary since she started working and investing it, plus 50% of her salary for the next 2 years, there is definitely a very likely chance that she would be able to achieve that goal. And the first step towards achieving your goals is to believe and have faith that it will happen. And just like my t-shirt says, faith doesn't make it easy, it makes it possible. And clearly, Imani is no stranger to hard work. But everything I said today was just my opinion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on Imani's budget breakdown. So let me know down below in the comments what you might do differently. But that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and click on the bell so that you get notified when my next video comes out. And as always, make sure you like the video, comment down below, and share with your friends and family. See you in the next video. Bye.